Gold. I'm going to talk today about why you should buy it and why you should buy it now. Hello and welcome to the Gary DeMar Show. Once again, I'm Joel McDurmon filling in for Gary DeMar on this Thursday. I'd like to talk a little bit about gold. Now, I'm not an investment advisor, and I'm not giving you investment advice. I'm not telling you what to do with your money, but I'm telling you what I would do with mine. Gold, obviously, it's biblical money. It is a hard stock of money. It is hard currency. It is based on weight and content. It is not based on human fiat like our paper currency and digital currencies are today, and governments can't manipulate it unless, of course, they dilute the alloy, which is much more difficult and expensive process to do than just pushing a button like central banks do today and creating billions, if not trillions of dollars. But that does not mean the gold market is not manipulated. And this is one of the major reasons not only should you buy, but you should buy now. There's been some revelations that have come out in the past couple of weeks or so that are not only very startling, well, they're actually not that startling because those of us who read this stuff have suspected it for a long time, but we hear at a hearing recently of the Commodities Futures Trading Commission that the gold markets are basically rigged in the same way as the currencies markets are. And we've heard admissions from the apologists for the big bullion banks like JP Chase, Goldman Sachs, and others, that they are actually rigging the markets. How does the story begin? Well, several months ago, a gentleman who works for the London Bullion Market Association, LBMA, tipped off the CFTC saying the markets have been rigged by the big bullion banks. They're basically selling positions on gold that doesn't exist. They have leveraged the market 100 times over, and they're bragging about their ability to sway the price of gold or silver at their will and, of course, for their benefit. And he said, not only is this happening, he said, I can tell you exactly when it's going to happen because he knew so. So he told them a date, and then he called them again or emailed them again on the day, within the hour that it was going to happen, and a huge swing in the price happened. And they sent him an email back that said, thank you for your observations. They did absolutely nothing about it. This is supposedly the regulatory body that makes sure these things don't happen, and they're basically saying, all right, big deal, so what? After these hearings that took place with the CFTC, the very original whistleblower whose name came out in those hearings, within 2 days after those hearings at his home in London, was viciously attacked in a hit-and-run accident. Someone tried to kill him purposely, and it appears anyway, he survived, and the car took off, led to a huge police chase. The guy was caught, and he was surrendered to the authorities, and the police were refusing to release his name or to say anything about it. So there's this very, very odd thing that took place. As soon as the guy's name came out, who blew the whistle, there was an attempt on his life. Am I a conspiracy theorist? No, but it's very strange. Anyway, there are other things to talk about. So this gentleman, whose name was Andrew McGuire, sent all of his information to GATA, which is the Gold Antitrust Association out in, I believe it's on the West Coast somewhere, I'm not sure exactly. But they are a watchdog group who have been for years crying out that there's fraud and problems in the gold markets, due specifically to the large banks and the problem of over-leveraging, selling contracts on gold that essentially doesn't exist, and therefore profiting from it. So he sent all of his stuff to them. Well, somehow GATA got their chairman, Bill Murphy, into a recent hearing, this recent hearing that I just told you about. And he was able to tell them everything that's been going on, show all their evidence, and cause a discussion about it. Well, there were apologists for the bullion banks there. One of them said, essentially admitted, this has been going on. And he says that Well, actually, I have it marked. He basically admitted that the London Bullion Market Association, the entire market is leveraged about 100 to 1. So put that in layman's terms, what he's saying is that in the gold futures market, for every 100 ounces of gold that people have a claim to, there probably exists about as little as 1 ounce in actual physical gold. What does that mean? Of course, this goes on every day. And most people who buy contracts on gold don't take delivery of the gold. They sell the contract again later or let it expire, whatever happens. They settle out in cash. They are generally speculators. They're not as much interested in owning the physical gold. But if there were even the slightest panic, even if a small percentage of those people said, I want to take physical delivery of my gold, it would drive the price of gold through the roof. In days, if not in seconds. The problem with the banks themselves, the bullion banks themselves, is the same. They have leveraged their gold out. They hold positions that they have to deliver in the hundreds of thousands of contracts every month. This could amount to, of course, billions, if not hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of gold here, which, of course, that much gold doesn't even exist in the world, let alone in the vaults of these banks. Some of the nations that hold contracts through these banks on gold, if one nation, if China said we want to take physical delivery of our gold, it would bankrupt Goldman Sachs, it would bankrupt JP Morgan overnight. I use those banks as representative figures, not necessarily to say China has positions with those banks. I don't know that. I'm just saying as an example. But if a small percentage of people called their contracts and wanted delivery on the gold, the banks would have to cover it somehow, and they would likely go under overnight unless there was an intervention from the government, some sort. They changed the rules and allowed them to get away with it. What's the point? The point is it would not take much at all to drive the price of gold through the roof. Now, people are saying the price of gold is hitting its historic highs. It's never been this high before. The highest before was in 1980 when, for a very temporary time, for a very short period of time, it spiked at $850 an ounce. And of course, today it has hit over $1,200 and it's around $1,150 today as we speak. So what's the point here? Well, it's at all-time highs. It's at record highs. Well, actually, it's not. If you adjust for the price of inflation, just for the inflation of the U.S. dollar between 1980 and now, you have a factor of about 2.6. The point being that the inflation-adjusted high in 1980 would be about $2,200 an ounce in today's money. So you can see that there's still another $1,000 an ounce for that spike to occur again, were it to occur again. Now, you put these things together, the massive leverage that's going on in the gold market, the fact that it takes very little run on physical gold to actually drive that price high, and the fact that inflation-adjusted price is nowhere near what it was in 1980. Those are just two reasons that should say that if you are going to invest in gold, don't wait until tomorrow. Don't wait for it to pull back. You need to invest now. Because most people in our circles, most reformed, reconstructionist, libertarian-minded people who believe in hard money, are not investing to speculate anyway. They're investing to conserve their wealth in a physical store of value, something that's going to be valued indefinitely into the future, unlike human fiat money. And so even if the gold price did pull back some, the point is to have your money in that physical value. But all the evidence is pointing to the fact that this is not going to pull back anytime soon, and if it did, it would probably be minor. And even if it did, it would still be a tremendous time to buy more. So the point is, you really should buy gold, and the point is, you really should buy gold now. It is biblical, and it practically makes sense, and all the indicators are pointing to the fact that it is a very smart thing to do quickly. Thank you for joining me for this little talk about gold here today on the Gary DeMar Show. See you next time.